Buffers. It is easy to forget about the difficulty of our position. We often think in a naive manner and assume that we can do. To get rid of this conviction is more difficult than anything else. At this stage we fail to understand the complexity of our mechanism, and do not realize that every effort in addition to the result desired, even if it yields this, gives thousands of unexpected and often undesirable results. The chief thing we forget is that we are not beginning anything from the beginning, with a nice clean new machine. There stand behind us many years of a wrong and stupid life, of indulgence in every kind of weakness, of shutting our eyes to our own mistakes, of striving to avoid all unpleasant truths, and of constantly lying to ourselves, of self-justification, of blaming others and so on. All of this cannot help but affect the machine. The machine is dirty, in places it is rusty, and in some places artificial appliances have been formed, the necessity for which have arisen as a consequence of its incorrect way of working. These artificial appliances will now interfere a great deal with all of our good intentions. They are called buffers. Buffer is a term that requires special explanation. We know what buffers on railway carriages are, or bumpers on the front and back of automobiles, buses and trucks. They are contrivances that lessen the shock when carriages or trucks strike one another. If there were no buffers, then the shock of one carriage or vehicle against another would be very unpleasant and dangerous. Buffers soften the impact of these shocks, and render them unnoticeable, even imperceptible. Exactly the same appliances are to be found within us. They are created not by nature, but by man himself, albeit involuntarily. The cause of their appearance is the existence in us of many contradictions, contradictions of opinion, contradictions of feelings, sympathies, words and actions. If a person throughout the whole of their life were to feel all the contradictions that are within them, they would not live and act as calmly as they live and act today. They would experience constant friction, constant unrest, and be in a state of constant inner turmoil. We fail to see how contradictory and hostile the different eyes of our personality are to one another. If a person were to feel all of these contradictions, they would feel what they really are. They would feel that they are mad. It is not pleasant for anyone to feel that they are insane. Furthermore, a thought such as this deprives one of self-confidence, weakens their energy and deprives their of self-respect. Somehow or other we must master this thought or banish it. We must either destroy contradictions, or cease to see and to feel them. An individual cannot destroy contradictions, however if buffers are created in them, they can cease to feel them, and realize that they will not feel the impact from the clash of contradictory views, contradictory emotions or contradictory words. Buffers are created slowly and gradually. A great many buffers are created artificially through education. Others are created under the hypnotic influence of our surrounding life. A person is surrounded by people who live, speak and feel by means of buffers. Imitating others in their opinions, actions and words, one involuntarily creates similar buffers within themselves. Buffers make a person's life easier. It is hard to live without buffers, however they keep us from the possibility of inner development because buffers are made to lessen shocks, and it is only these shocks that can lead a person out of the state in which they live, that is to awaken them. Buffers lull a person to sleep, give them the agreeable and peaceful sensation that all will be well, that no contradictions exist and that they can sleep on in peace. Buffers are appliances by means of which a person can always be right. Buffers help one not to feel their conscience. Conscience, however, is again a term that needs explanation. In ordinary life, the term conscience is taken far too simply. As if we had a conscience. Actually, the concept conscience in the sphere of emotions is equivalent to the concept consciousness in the sphere of the intellect, and as we have no consciousness, we can have no conscience. Consciousness is a state in which a person knows all at once, everything that they in general know, in which they can see how little they really do indeed know, and how many contradictions there are in what they think that they know. Conscience is a state in which one feels all at once everything that they in general feel, or can feel, and as everyone has within them thousands of contradictory feelings that vary, from a deeply hidden realization of their own nothingness and fears of all kinds, to the most stupid kind of self-conceit, self-confidence, self-satisfaction and self-praise. So to feel all of this together at once, would not only be painful and cause great anguish, but literally be unbearable. If a person whose entire inner world is composed of contradictions was suddenly to feel all of these contradictions simultaneously within themselves, if they were to feel all at once that they love everything they hate, and hate everything they love, that they lie when they tell the truth, and tell the truth when they lie, and if they could feel the shame, the contradiction and the horror of it all, this then would be the state that is called conscience. A person cannot live in this state. They must either destroy the contradictions, or destroy their conscience. We cannot destroy our conscience, however if we cannot destroy it, then we can at least put it to sleep. That is, we can separate by means of impenetrable barriers, one feeling of self from another feeling of self. Never see them together, never feel their incompatibility, the absurdity of one existing alongside the other. Fortunately for us, for our peace of mind and for undisturbed sleep, this state of conscience is rare. From early childhood buffers begin to grow and to strengthen in us, taking away the possibility of seeing our inner contradictions, and therefore for us there is no danger whatsoever of suddenly awakening, unless it's for a brief instant brought upon by traumatic shock. Awakening is possible only for those who seek it, and who want it, for those who are ready to struggle with themselves and work on themselves for a very long time, with persistence. In order to attain awakening, it is necessary to destroy buffers, that is to go out and meet all of those inner sufferings that are connected with the sensation of contradiction in us. Furthermore, the destruction of buffers in itself requires long and arduous work. A person must agree to this undertaking, realizing that the result of the work will bring every possible discomfort and suffering as a consequence of the awakening of their conscience. Conscience is the fire, the will, Agni of Vedic literature, that alone can fuse all the powders in the glass retort that was mentioned before. It is inner friction and creates the unity that we lack in that state in which we begin to study ourselves. The concept conscience has nothing in common with the concept morality, however. Conscience is a general and a permanent phenomenon. Conscience is the same for all people, or all cultures, and conscience is possible only in the absence of buffers. From the point of view of understanding the different categories of man, we may say that there exists the conscience of one in whom there are no contradictions. This conscience is not suffering, on the contrary it is joy, of a totally new character that we are unable to comprehend. In Buddhism referred to as jhana, or the varying states of jhana. Even a momentary awakening of consciousness in a person who has thousands of different eyes is bound to involve suffering. Furthermore, if these moments of consciousness become longer, and if one does not fear them, but on the contrary cooperates with them and tries to keep and prolong them, then an element of very subtle joy, a foretaste of some future clear consciousness, will gradually enter into these moments. There is nothing general, on the other hand, in the concept of morality. Morality consists of buffers, and there is no general morality. What is moral in China is immoral in Europe, and what is moral in Europe is immoral in Africa. What is moral in Los Angeles is immoral in West Virginia, and what is moral in West Virginia is immoral in Texas. Morality is always and everywhere an artificial phenomenon. It consists of various taboos, that is, restrictions and demands, sometimes sensible in their basis and sometimes having lost all meaning, or never having had any meaning in the first place. Created on a false basis, upon the soil of superstition, ignorance and fear. Morality consists of buffers, and since buffers are of various kinds, and as the conditions of life and culture in different countries and in different ages or among different classes of society vary considerably, then so too the morality created by them is also very dissimilar and contradictory. A morality common to all does not exist, a fact that even today we fail to grasp. It is even impossible to say that there exists any general idea of morality. For example, in Europe, it is said sometimes that the general morality for Europe or the West is Christian morality. But first of all, the idea of Christian morality itself admits many different interpretations, and a host of heinous crimes have been justified throughout the ages by just such a Christian morality. In the second place, modern Europe or the West in general has very little in common with Christian morality, no matter how we seek to understand this morality. If Christian morality dragged Europe through 2 world wars in the last century, then it is probably just as well to be as far as possible from such morality. Students of this work and system say they do not understand the moral side of the teaching, or that the teaching appears to have no morality at all. This is of course true, because people are very fond of talking about morality. However, morality is merely self-suggestion. What is necessary in the work is conscience. The system does not teach morality, it teaches instead how to find conscience. People are not pleased when they discover this, and say that the system lacks love, simply because it does not encourage weakness and hypocrisy, but on the contrary strips off all masks. Those who desire the truth will not speak of love or of Christianity, because they know how far they are from any of these. Christian teaching is for Christians, and Christians are those who live, that is, who do everything according to the precepts of the Christ. Can those who talk of love and morality live according to the precepts taught by Jesus? Of course they cannot, but there will always be talk of this kind. There will always be people to whom words are more precious than anything else. But this is a true sign. He who speaks like this is an empty man. It is not worth wasting time and effort on them. Morality and conscience are quite different things. One conscience can never contradict another conscience. One morality, however, can always very easily contradict and completely deny another. A person with buffers may be very moral, and buffers can be very different, that is, 2 very moral people may consider each other immoral. As a rule, this is almost inevitably so. The more moral a person is, the more immoral they think other moral people are. The idea of morality is connected with the idea of good and evil conduct. But the idea of good and evil is always different for different people, always subjective in man number 1, number 2 and number 3, connected only with a given moment or a given situation. A subjective man can have no general concept of good or evil. For a subjective man, evil is everything that is opposed to his desires or interests, to his concept of good. One may say that evil does not exist for subjective man at all, that there exist only different concepts of good. Nobody ever does anything deliberately in the interests of evil, or for the sake of evil. Everybody acts in the interests of good as they understand it. However, everybody understands it in a different way, consequently people drown, slay and massacre one another, all in the interests of good. The reason is once again just the same, our ignorance and the deep sleep in which we live. This is so obvious that it seems strange that people never thought of it before. However, the fact remains that they fail to understand it, and everyone considers their good as the only good, and all the rest as evil. It is naive and useless to hope that people will ever understand this, and that they will evolve a general and identical idea of some universal good. Do good and evil therefore exist in themselves apart from or outside of us? They do, only this is far from us and not worth even trying to understand at present. Suffice at this stage to say one thing though, that the only possible permanent idea and evil for man is connected with the idea of evolution. Not with mechanical evolution of course, but with the idea of man's development through conscious effort. The change of his being, the creation of unity in him and the formation of a permanent I. A permanent idea of good and evil can be formed in us only in connection with a permanent aim, and a permanent understanding. If an individual understands that they are asleep, and if they wish to awaken, then everything that helps them to awaken will be good, and everything that hinders them, everything that prolongs their sleep will be evil. Exactly in the same way will they understand what is good and evil for other people. What helps them to awaken is good, what hinders them is evil. However, this is so only for those who wish to awaken, that is for those who understand and accept that they are indeed asleep, walking, talking automatons. Those who do not understand that they are asleep, and those who can have no wish to awaken, cannot have any understanding of good or evil, as the overwhelming majority of people do not realize and will never realize that they are asleep. Neither good nor evil will actually exist for them. This contradicts generally accepted ideas. People are accustomed to think that good and evil must be the same for everyone, and above all that good and evil exist for everyone. In reality, however, good and evil exist only for a few, for those who have an aim, and who pursue that aim. Then what hinders the pursuit of that aim is evil and what helps is good. Most sleeping people will of course say that they have an aim, and that they are going somewhere. The realization of the fact that they have no aim, and that they are going nowhere are the first signs of an approaching awakening, or of awakening becoming really possible for them. Awakening begins when a person realizes that they are going nowhere and do not know where to go.